This is the CreaseCast. Here's your host, Lach in the Crease.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to the CreaseCast. I am Lach in the Crease. I'd like to start this episode, obviously, by acknowledging that, three things are surviving into September as we round the corner through this into the Stanley Cup Finals. Obviously, the Tampa Bay Lightning are still here. The Dallas Stars are still here, and TikTok is still here. Obviously, I don't use TikTok that much, but there's been the whole controversy of it's going to get shut down in the States, which I guess I assumed that would kind of include Canada. Like it doesn't make any sense that it would. It probably wouldn't affect me in any way, shape, or form. But TikTok is one of those social media platforms where I don't fully understand, even though I'm right at that age where you'd think I'd understand all of the apps and everything. TikTok is still very weird and weird to me. Just reading all this stuff about how it's like saved, I'm kind of like, oh cool, I might actually like try something on that app. I might have to make a CreaseCast TikTok account, especially because now if you're watching this on the YouTube channel, you know that I have a new camera. We got a brand new camera. How's it going? I'm waving at everybody. And it's what's really cool about the camera I got for the show is first of all, thank you to everybody who's been listening and who's been enjoying the show over the last bit. Like I've talked about before recently, a lot more people. The listenership has started really like going up, and it's getting me more into this mindset that, hey, let's start putting some money into the podcast and everything and really trying to like make this bigger and better. And I've talked about that, like, for next season, it's going to get even bigger and more stuff I have planned. But, one of the things I really wanted to add that I'm excited that we finally get here is a new camera. And what's cool about this one that I bought is that it's like, it's specifically for content creation. So like I can flip it and make it like vertical for stuff like TikTok and whatever other apps like, Instagram, everything else. I don't know if, I don't know how much I'll actually use that aspect, but it's pretty cool that we have the ability to do that. And over time, I'm going to add more stuff to the show. And this is the start of, really getting more like diving headfirst into all of that, all the cool CreaseCast stuff that we have planned for the show. But for now, let's go right into the fact that the Stanley Cup Finals are on. They started today. Dallas won the first game to my surprise. With everything that's been going on in the world and just it's the Canucks are obviously out of the playoffs now. A little bit of me was like kind of running out of gas and energy just because of like the season technically never ended for me. I don't know about you. I know, but for myself, even though the season was paused from March all the way into it was August. It was like the first week, the day of August. That's a long time, but the season never felt complete. It still very much felt like, okay, this is in limbo. We're still in hockey mode until they come back or officially cancel. So I've been like, a little bit just kind of running on whatever energy I've got left at that point, and going into this Cup Finals, I was excited to see Tampa in there, but, like we talked about before on the show, I'm not a big fan of the Islanders, and the Islanders were really making it tough to watch that series. So I came in a little bit colder than I would have anticipated into this Cup Final, just not the same, the same vigor and excitement for a Cup Final that I normally do. But this is going to be a great series. And I was worried that possibly Tampa was going to come in and just, completely smash right through Dallas here and make it not an inch. And it wasn't going to be interesting, not because Dallas is a weak team, not far from it. They're just that the fact that the Lightning are so incredibly stacked on that forward and that the offensive side of the puck and having Andrei Vasilevsky, who's been fantastic and not getting enough credit for how good he's been for Tampa over the course of the playoffs. and then versus Anton Khudobin, who is a great goaltender and has shown us this whole playoffs that he is a very capable goaltender. That I was worried that like the fact that they have Vasilevsky, they have such a more like stacked forward group was just gonna like be too much for a team like Dallas, and it was just gonna like, and it was gonna be a quick kind of sad series. So I'm thrilled to find out that that we've had a good start so far, and that Dallas has not only shown that they can win, but they can dominate in their own way. I think, I think that's important. I think the fact of the matter is that this sets us up for the understanding that this is going to be a really good heavyweight fight, between these two teams. Like the one thing, of course, that everybody was worried about going into this cup final is that it was going to be the Asterisk Cup, that we were going to get some very wacky finalists that wouldn't have been here under the regular circumstances, and that wouldn't have, may not have even made the playoffs, let alone got in the regular season, let alone get in and get to the final in a normal circumstance. But we're not. We've got Tampa, we've got a top 4 team in Tampa, and a top 4 Eastern team in Tampa, and a top 4 Western team in Dallas. These are two teams that very much were cup contenders going into the season, and they're both here and they're both in the finals. And the fact of the matter is, maybe it boded better that we got these. There was more likely for us to get these two teams because of the fact that they had more time to rest and recoup, and we got the best out of these teams that we might not have gotten had they been already going through the massive grind of the regular season. Dallas looked good tonight. They looked very good. They played like they really played a full team. They played a full team game, and they got scoring from, it wasn't the usual suspects, which is what it takes in the playoffs. And we've talked about this before. Everybody does that. You can't be relying on your superstars to win you every single game every night, because you can't win championships that way. You need lower level guys to step up. I mean, tonight we had the first goal. The first goal of the game was who was it? It was Joel Hanley. Joel Hanley had the first goal of the game. I didn't even know who that was, and maybe that's just because I don't watch the Dallas Stars enough. But I had no idea who this person was, and here they are scoring the very first goal in a Stanley Cup Final. This is the kind of stuff that wins championships. Those lower level players, bubble players, AHL call-ups, whatever you want to describe them as, having those guys who can step up into your lineup when you need them to win you hockey games, like the way they did tonight, the Dallas's best players did tonight, has been key for them. I mean, they're missing Radek Faksa, they're missing Stephen Johns. I think there was even a point where Rope Hintz went down the locker room like late in the third period. You need depth. You need depth to win in this league. And Dallas is getting that depth to step up and play excellent hockey. I mean, great example is Anton Khudobin. He's their backup. He's not their regular starter. Ben Bishop, who has a history of getting injured, did end up getting hurt in these playoffs, is probably, I believe, done for the playoffs. Jake Ottinger is backing up Khudobin, and we're looking at a situation where Khudobin has played the best hockey of his career, without a doubt. He's not just like surviving in net. He is thriving, and that does make a difference. And it's great to see that aspect of his game, and it's great to see those kinds of performances if you're Rick Bowness, who, by the way, let's talk about Rick Bowness. This guy, who is of course a former Canucks coach, now he got his chance under weird circumstances to take over as head coach of the Stars midway through the season as the interim. And here he is in the Cup Finals, 3 wins away from a Stanley Cup. I mean, good for Rick Bowness. Apparently he's one of the nicest guys in the world. So it's great to see him getting rewarded. And whether or not they win or lose here, I mean, I think his job is safe in Dallas. I think that's I'd be shocked if they were like, yeah, we're gonna let this guy who got our team all the way to the finals for the first time since 2000. We're just gonna let him walk. No biggie, right? Nah, he's got a job there for a while. That group has responded. The Stars have really responded, and they've gotten they had a great first game. They really showed Tampa that they can dish out just as much as they can take from this group. I mean, like Jamie Alexiak there's another guy who's, he's not a star in any way, but he ends up with the game winner. You have Yoel Kiviranta, that legend, the Finnish kid scoring a hat trick in his first game in a game 7 against Colorado, including with the hat trick goal being an overtime winner. Now he's got a final goal. Amazing. And you're still getting key points from guys like John Klingberg and Alex Radulov and Miro Heiskanen. Miro Heiskanen has been fantastic. What a defenseman. He is another kind of game breaker like Quinn Hughes, one of those defensemen that just when you watch him, the way he's able to control the play and the way he's able to make offensive chances happen is it's amazing. It's mesmerizing to watch, the same way it is with Quinn Hughes and Cale Makar and those kinds of defensemen. Miro Heiskanen is fantastic. I love this new stretch of defensemen who are smaller, not necessarily the bulkiest guys in the world. They're coming in a little bit smaller, but they are skilled and they're quick and they can make offense out of nothing plays. That's so cool to see from guys like Miro Heiskanen, and I love what he brings to the table and what he brings to this game. And I really like the Stars odds because he's been their best player by a comfortable margin. Miro has been great. I would not be surprised if he ends up with the Conn Smythe as playoff MVP. Although I think you could also make a case for Anton Khudobin as well, because of the situation he stepped into and how well he's played under those circumstances. I feel like there's a couple. Those are the two big Stars players you could absolutely pick from this group who have been just fantastic. From Tampa's standpoint, they weren't bad tonight. They didn't have a bad night. They just ran into great goaltending from Khudobin. This wasn't a case of where they just didn't have any sort of, push. I think Dallas does get a little bit of help considering the fact that the Lightning had to go to an extra 6th game and didn't get the same amount of time off that that the Stars did, because they finished off their series in 5. I think the way that the Lightning looked a little bit tired, but they still played a very good game, which just goes to show you how well balanced and how great that attack is, that Lightning team can be. I think you're going to see Tampa come back with a couple really big games. I think game 2 is going to be pivotal for them. I mean, every game in the Cup Finals is pivotal, but I would say for Tampa, I think you're going to see them come out and I think they're going to have, I would be shocked if Tampa went down 2-0 in the series. I think they're going to tie it up, and then things are going to get very interesting from that point on. I think Vasilevsky had a little bit of a tougher night. He definitely had a bit of a tougher night. There were a couple weird goals. But he, this is a guy who has done an exceptional job. And it's great to see him in the Cup Finals, especially because there were a lot of question marks when he first took over as the starting goaltender for Tampa back when, because remember, it's been about 4 seasons now since essentially they had Ben Bishop, who is now, of course, a Stars goalie, but injured. Imagine that. It's too bad we're missing that storyline of Bishop versus Vasilevsky. That would have been a cool story. As much as I love Khudobin and I love his the story we're getting from him, it would have been cool to see Bishop versus Vasilevsky. Bishop, of course, took the Lightning to the Cup Finals in 2015, got hurt midway through. Vasilevsky came in. They lost to Chicago. But then the Lightning made what was considered a risky decision at the time, even with Bishop's injury history, of trading Bishop to the LA Kings, and making Vasilevsky their starting goaltender. And there have been a lot of questions as to, maybe he can't get them through to the playoffs. He's not Bishop. He can't get them through he can't push them through to that to the Stanley Cup Final. He finally did it, and he did it very quietly because of how many great goaltending stories there have been, like Thatcher Demko and Khudobin and Halak, who did very well, and Varlamov. You go down the list of some amazing goaltending performances we've been seeing in these playoffs. Robin Lehner's another guy up until the final series. He was a little bit shakier. just Vasilevsky has very quietly been one of the best goaltenders in these playoffs, and it's it's weird that, and maybe that's kind of what it took. Maybe it's the fact that the Lightning weren't nearly as heavily under the microscope the way they have been in past seasons, that kind of allowed them to just focus on playing their game and sneaking up on a couple teams this year. In the same way I've talked about the Capitals from back in 2018 when they won the cup. That's that same mentality of, okay, nobody thinks we're the top dog anymore, so we can actually surprise some people when we start sneaking through the playoff rounds. And with Tampa, I think that's what they're running into here, is you're going to see a Lightning team that was less expected to get this far, especially without Steven Stamkos because of his injury. And who knows if he's even going to join them at all during these playoffs. He might not. We're already obviously a game in and he hasn't played. So there's a very real chance that Stamkos will not play in these playoffs at all. And if that's the case, it's going to be all the more impressive if they do eventually win the Stanley Cup, which I think they're capable of. I think now, obviously we're a game in, but I'm going to still give my prediction here, which is that, I think that Dallas is good, but is a very good team and clearly showed it tonight. I still think, though, that this is Tampa's series to lose. I think they're more stacked on the offensively. They're just as talented on the blue line. They might not have Miro Heiskanen, but they have Victor Hedman. You can go down the list of guys. They have an excellent defense. And they should have the edge in goaltending, although it was a little bit of Anton Khudobin's night tonight. I think you're going to see Vasilevsky come back with some incredible performances in the next couple games. I think this is going to be at Tampa. I think it's going to be close, though. I could still see Dallas winning this series. It's such a close call. I really think we're going to see a 7 game. This is the one. This is going to go 7, and I'm going to say Tampa finally gets it done in game 7. That's what it feels like. That's the way I see this going. And hey, remember, lots of teams have lost the first game of the Cup Final of recently and have still gone on to win. So it's not out of the question that this series obviously isn't over before the first game. After the game 1, there is lots of hockey left to go, and it's gonna be good. It's gonna be fun to watch, especially as we we're heading to it's the start of autumn. Good Lord, and we're just finishing the Cup Final. It's starting to. I will say this: it's gonna be hockey weather by the time we actually finish hockey season. That's which is not how it usually goes, but it's just a weird wrinkle, and just another weird wrinkle in this 2020, this shit show of a year. With that in mind, just quickly going to touch on some Canucks stuff. Obviously, this is a Canucks podcast. Not much Canucks stuff going on right now. There's going to be a lot, but there's going to be a lot of news that comes very quickly because of how much the league, the NHL, is just trying to rush right through to officially finishing the year with the draft and then free agency. 2 days after the draft start, the first round of the draft. It's just, they're just trying to get through it. They want to get it done. They want to send everybody home. They want to get everybody settled and sorted out for next season, and then just be like, okay, please go home and let's not talk for a while. Let's all just have a break, please. With the Canucks, obviously they have all their UFAs, and we've talked about them at length. One more thing they need to address now is the fact that they have lost a coach. Manny Malholtra was a specialist, a face-off specialist for the Canucks for a while, and now he's moved on to the Toronto Maple Leafs as an assistant coach on the bench. He's officially on the bench, and in a way, I'm sad. I'll say this: I think the Canucks should have given him the opportunity to be an assistant here in Vancouver, and instead of losing him to Toronto, because oh man, the wonders he's worked on in the face-off dot with the centers, with Pettersson and Horvat, and how much that group has improved in the face-off dot since he came on. I think this is a loss that we're not going to realize is so crippling until we get back, obviously, until we see it on the ice. Now, obviously, when you learn stuff, like Bo Horvat isn't just going to suddenly forget how to take face-offs, but I think you're going to notice little dips in sometimes, like the fact of they won't have him there. There are going to be moments where it maybe takes a slight dip regresses just a little bit. And that because he won't have that constant watchful eye of Manny Malholtra, and with Pettersson as well, and with all the other centers, they've got the young centers they've got coming up through the lamp. Adam Gaudette's another big one. I think you're not gonna notice it right away, but you're gonna notice over time that it's not gonna take a nosedive. It's just gonna slightly regress back to a little closer to what it was before. It's gonna find that middle. And it's too bad that they couldn't find a way to keep him under that on the bench with the Canucks, because I love Manny Malholtra. He's a great guy, and I'm so happy for him that he's getting a job. As an assistant coach, even if it is with Toronto. It's great to see that he's moving up the ranks as a coach here. And again, I just wish that it could have been in Vancouver. The fact that it couldn't doesn't diminish the fact that he's done a hell of a job here. Oh, excuse me. I swear to God, that wasn't like I'm not getting choked up about Manny Malhotra leaving. He did great. He did great work with this group, and it's going to be tough to find a replacement, if they even decide to make to really replace him with a new face-off guy. They might just leave that up to the assistant coaches that they have. It's a tough loss. It is a tough loss. Whether or not it's going to get noticed right away, it will be a tough loss for this group. But hey, great for Manny Malholtra. Moving on here. There's been a lot of rumors. Obviously, when the Canucks season ends, one of the things that you just love about Canucks Twitter is that everybody gets all the rumors, the trade rumors and the trade deals start just flying around. One that's been very prominent, and as the Minnesota Wild specifically have been a Minnesota Canucks trade has been very much talked about, particularly because there is a lot of speculation that the Canucks are really trying to make a deal work for Matt Dumba. Now, some people I know Harmon Dial has talked about how he doesn't feel that Matt Dumba is a great fit for this team, and he's probably he definitely does play a different game than the Canucks. What makes the Canucks successful? But I think whether or not it does seem like that's a direction that they're interested in. So we have to look at it, because this is Matt Dumba's not gonna let's start with the fact that obviously Matt Dumba's not going to come cheap. He's an incredible defenseman, probably a little bit underrated for what he brings to the table. But he's on the pricey side. He is still coming in as a pricier defenseman. As I try and pull up his cap, I don't know why. Why did I not have this prepared? Great question. I wish I had an answer for you. But the big rumor has been, of course, that it's going to be Matt Dumba, because it's the Wild. Matt Dumba with Brock Boeser going the other way. The Canucks are not trading Brock Boeser, and they shouldn't. They'd be very, very, very stupid to trade Brock Boeser, even for a defenseman as good as Matt Dumba. No. Have we not learned from Taylor Hall for Adam Larson? Matt Dumba, okay, yes, is Matt Dumba and Brock Boeser more closely comparable in skill to Taylor Hall and Adam Larson? Yes, they definitely are. They're definitely both very, very good in their respective positions. But if there's one thing we learned from that 1v1 trade, it's you don't trade from a point of strength just to fix a specific need. You take the best deal available. It doesn't matter that you need defense. If you're going to trade a guy like Taylor Hall, you need to go out and get proper value for Taylor Hall. Just getting back Adam Larson, I know maybe that helps fix your defense. That's still a bad trade, because you could have gotten so much more for Taylor Hall. With Brock Boeser, if you're going to move Brock Boeser, which again, let's be very clear, I don't think they should at all, 100%, because the commodity Brock Boesers don't come around often. He's better. What you're going to get for Brock Boeser is not going to amount to how much more skill and how much better he makes your team overall. You will be making your team worse by trading Brock Boeser in just about every situation. There are very few trades out there that are readily available because, I don't think Brock Boeser for Connor McDavid is coming up anytime soon. I don't think that trade is going to happen at any point. Those you're not going the likelihood of you actually getting back a return that makes the Canucks better without Brock Boeser than with him is very, very slim, and it's not going to happen if you trade him for Matt Dumba. I just don't think that's how it's going to go. I think Matt Dumba is a great piece if you can add him for a much cheaper price than Brock Boeser. One of the guys I would like to throw out there is Jake Virtanen as a potential return piece for Minnesota. Like, okay, I am not going to sit here and tell you that Jake Virtanen is as good as Matt Dumba. Obviously, that's not a comparable here. But I think a Jake Virtanen plus package could work, and why that is because I think that the Wild are in a situation where they need some cheap contracts. I mean, just looking at their situation, they've already taken on a little bit of extra money with the Marcus Johansson acquisition, which I haven't got into yet. They're already taking on a little. They're already, they're sitting up in a case where they need to. They have a lot of cap tied up that they just cannot. That they're not going to be able to get rid of. And I think obviously there is a good case to be made that you could get Jake Virtanen as an RFA from the Canucks, lock him up for a little bit of a cheaper deal, and I think in Minnesota would be a good place for him. I think it would be a good fit for him in that market because of the fact that even though Minnesota, they have about $11 million in cap space, but with with a healthy amount of UFAs and RFAs that need to be replaced. I think some trades probably need to be made. I mean, good Lord, that Zach Parise contract, Jesus. Jake Virtanen is a guy who obviously needs more work, and I think what he needs more than anything is a quieter market. He needs somewhere where he's not going to be under the microscope the way he is in Vancouver because he's the local kid, because he's a top 5 pick of the franchise, like a top 5 draft pick for the franchise. All of those extra bits and pieces that just, there's always so much more added pressure on Jake Virtanen to be better because of the team he's on. I think Minnesota will be a lot quieter for him specifically to focus on getting better as a hockey player. He won't be nearly as under, like, I don't want to say scrutiny, but for lack of a better word, scrutiny, because he's not the local product, because he's not a draft pick a draft pick that's struggled to find his spot to find his true place in the lineup. I think he could get a little bit more leeway and time in Minnesota than he would here. And I think he could find success in Minnesota as a winger for the Wild going forward, especially because they're kind of retooling. They're an older group. They need to get a little bit younger and faster. Jake Virtanen is both of those things. I think you could very easily make a case that a Jake Virtanen plus, obviously Moore's coming with him, that package could work for both teams here. With Matt Dumba coming the other way, Jake Virtanen plus maybe I don't know another name to throw out here. It's probably going to be, this is where it gets a little trickier. Obviously, by sending a Jake Virtanen, they're probably going to want somebody who's a little bit more of a guarantee in terms of what they bring to the table. I don't think you're going to be able to move another boat anchor contract off of there. So you're probably looking at trading somebody decent. I don't even know off that lineup. I mean, this might be where you end up with losing a guy like Troy Stetcher. Jesus. I hope not. or a prospect. You might end up losing a Utica guy from this sort of a deal. I mean, if you can talk them into, say, the idea of like a Brandon Sutter, that would be great. I don't think you're going to get that, but if you can, that'd be a good place to go, especially because next year is where they are. Although that, it looks like that's going to be a tough sell for them, especially because again, they want to get younger. But I think that's a good starting point at the very least. I'm not going to do all the heavy lifting for you, Jim Benning and Bill Guerin. You got to do some of the lifting yourself here. But I'm going to say that Jake Virtanen is a good starting point for that kind of a trade. And I know people are going to laugh at that idea, but I'm just putting it out there. It could work. It really could work, I think, for both teams. And I will say this, that like, I know some people, if say Jake Virtanen, let's say this did happen. Let's say that a package deal was done where Jake Virtanen is the key piece going to Minnesota. He succeeds in Minnesota. I know you're going to get a lot of people out there that are going to be like, oh, see, we gave up on him too quickly, and now look how great he is. No, I think the point here is that if he does succeed, it's because he goes to another market, to a different market where the opportunity for him to succeed is a little bit better. I think if he has success, it's going to be because he got traded to a different sort of situation that was better for him. I don't think he's ever going to find that here. And I think this could be a good trade for Jake Virtanen. It could be a good deal for Matt Dumba because he's constantly the center of trade rumors and everything, and I think he would help make the Canucks better for the future. I think he's a great piece to add, and I think it's been proven with everything in the Hockey Diversity Alliance stuff that off the ice, he's a great person off the ice, and he's a great person to have in your locker room. This is the kind of stuff these are the kinds of things that you want to think about if you're in management for the Canucks. You want to start thinking about Matt Dumba is at the very least a guy who will be great for you in terms of both on the ice production and as just a general person in your locker room and somebody who's a leader who you want to have with your group, who you want to have growing with your young players like Pettersson and Boeser and Horvat. I mean, Horvat's a captain, one of the veterans now, but you know what I'm saying. Like with that younger group and Quinn Hughes, of course. Oh man, Matt Dumba could be a very good resource for Quinn Hughes. I love that possibility. Let's with the Wild in mind, let's jump over to them because they've been busy, and this is why Matt Dumba's coming up right now again from the Canucks standpoint, is the fact that the Wild are in a bit of an interesting situation. They just made a trade with the Sabres where they acquired Marcus Johansson for Eric Staal. Eric Staal. Now, first of all, Eric Staal didn't have Buffalo on his no trade clause. That is fascinating to me. I'm sorry, Buffalo, not to pile on you when you've actually done something that's made a good trade here. This is a great trade for the Sabres. You gain a little bit of cap space. You get a player in Eric Staal who has been very good wherever he's gone. He's maybe not a superstar or a star like he once was when he was at his peak with the Hurricanes back in the day, but this is a guy who I think is perfect for the Sabres in the situation that the Sabres have been in for the last few years. Eric Staal has played on a Stanley Cup winner before, but he's also played on teams he's also seen some teams through their leaner years when the Hurricanes were not at their best. And I think when in a case like Buffalo's, this is a market that, has seen a lot of losing. That this is a team in a locker room that's seen a lot of losing seasons over the last few years. I think, for the record, I think the culture aspect of a hockey team sometimes gets given a little bit too much credit than it deserves sometimes. But I will also say that in the case of a team like Buffalo, when you have lost as much as they have, and we've seen it before with like the Oilers and the Panthers, these teams that just lose so routinely and often that it just seeps into these players to the point it's poisonous. It becomes poisonous to them, where you could go and win 10 games in a row, and then maybe you hit a speed bump and maybe you lose the next 3. All of a sudden that the whole mentality just goes off a cliff, because all you're used to as a player on one of those teams is losing and choking away those opportunities no matter what happens. It seems like you never can get out of it, and it just destroys your team's mentality. I think Eric Staal is a perfect acquisition for this team in terms of a guy who has seen teams at their most successful and at their least successful. I think he can come in, and he's going to be the second line center for the Sabres that they've needed for a while. But I think much more importantly for this group, I think he is going to be able to help push guys with, hey, if we get on a bit of a losing streak, it's not the end of the world. We can get out of this. And he's going to help kind of get that locker room, bring a more positive vibe to that locker room that they sorely need, and help them get better at understanding that a couple losses isn't going to kill you. You can, no matter how long you've gotten used to the losing, you can get out of it. It is possible to find that side where it gets you back into playoff hockey again. I think he's a good fit for that group, for the Sabres, particularly from that aspect, even if it doesn't help them, even if he does, of course, replace one of the only 4 forwards they had under contract. And that's a whole other mess that we've talked about already. For the Wild, well, they get a bit of a younger guy, but I don't fully understand this trade from the Wild standpoint. Like, I don't get this at all for them. Like, Marcus Johansson, yeah, he's a little bit of a faster guy. He's obviously younger than Eric Staal, but he's much more expensive. And I don't know why they're not a team that should be buying, like, right now. They didn't make the playoffs. I don't think they're going to make the playoffs for a while. I think they're a team that needs to rebuild as much as they possibly can right now, but that's a hard thing to do. Again, when you have Zach Parise and Ryan Suter both with 5 more years left on their contracts at nearly $8 million. Like, those contracts aren't going anywhere anytime soon. And that's that's $16 million of your 80 million in cap that you have. Like, that's a lot. That's going to really hurt your team for a while to come. So I don't know why you're going out and buying a more expensive player, even if he does provide you with some speed, especially considering that it sounds, from what I was listening to on the 31 Thoughts podcast, they were talking about how Marcus Johansson is supposed to be a center, even though he's a natural winger. And it didn't, and the Sabres had done that last season and it didn't work. So I don't fully understand the reasoning, which is why, again, I think the Canucks should be just every single day calling about Matt Dumba, because it doesn't look like they really know what they're doing in terms of the direction for the group, for the team. I don't think they have a full idea of where they're going with this team right now. It seems like they're more just making changes for the sake of making changes, which is, again, I think you could get Matt Dumba for a much cheaper price than Brock Boeser. Which is why you shouldn't even make that an offer. The one thing the Wild did do that was a smarter call was signing Jonas Brodin for a 7-year, $42 million contract extension, $6 million cap hit through to 2027, 28. I wanted the Canucks to try and grab him in free agency, or through trade. So even more than Dumba, honestly. But that contract, it's a long term, and maybe he's an older guy, I believe. Jonas Brodin, how old is he? He is 27. So yeah, he's a little bit older. So that's maybe a concern. But I would say that the amount of good years you're going to get still out of Jonas Brodin, and he's relatively underrated as a defenseman, I think that will help the Wild for sure down the stretch. One other contract for a defenseman also got handed out this week that I would say helps a little bit less. Joel Edmondson got a 4-year, $14 million extension from the Canadians. I don't know what I don't know about this, man. Like, Joel Edmondson was decent for the Carolina Hurricanes this year and for the Habs as well. Um, and I don't know why you would sign him for that many years. I mean, I think he's an older guy. I gotta pull up the stats here on his statistics here. But like Montreal, yes, they definitely need some help in a lot of things. And they're a team that's mostly Carey Price, Nick Suzuki, Jesperi Kotkaniemi, and that's Shea Weber as well, and that's about it. I mean, there's already talk that they're going to lose Max Domi pretty soon here. So they're a team that definitely needs a lot of pieces and needs to plug a lot of holes. He did all right for the Hurricanes, 20 points, his best season scoring wise. And he's 20, but he's 27, and I think that's his peak. I think 20 points is the peak you're going to get out of him. He's more or less a defensive defenseman. And I don't know if 4 years, especially for a big physical guy like him, is a good bet. Especially again when you're putting a lot of money into other places as well. The Canadians have a lot of cap tied up right now, particularly in their goaltenders, in Carey Price and Jake Allen, and then Shea Weber as well. Like, ooh, I don't know about this one. This feels like a poor choice from their part, but I mean, if you're the Habs, especially, they seem to have struggled with getting people under term to stay long term with the Habs of late. So hey, maybe you take what you can get. Let's see. Last couple things before we call this show. The Capitals hired their new coach in Peter Laviolette. The I will say that I think Peter Laviolette, obviously he's a guy that's won a Stanley Cup with the Hurricanes a while ago. But that was a while ago. Took the Predators to a Cup final much more recently. There are I think he's a good choice for this group. I have some questions, like in terms of, I think, I don't think he's a bad coach. I think this is probably the best fit you were going to get. It seemed clear that after everything with Todd Reirden, that the Capitals wanted an experienced head coach. This time around, Peter Laviolette fits that bill. I still feel like maybe Gerard Gallant would have been a better pick for them, for any team, frankly. But I think Laviolette is one of the better coaches available. He had the experience and the what they're looking for, and the Caps just need someone to push them back in the right direction. They just didn't have the urgency this time around that they needed. This in the bubble this time around, and that's they haven't gotten out of the first round of the playoffs in the last 2 years since winning the Cup, and they just need a guy who's gonna steer that ship back in the right direction again, because they're not a bad team. They're a very good team. They're still very much should be a Cup contender right now. Like, that ship hasn't sailed for them yet. And finally, there was the Arizona Coyotes. On the good news side of things, they hired a new head coach, or a new general manager, in Bill Armstrong. He had been the assistant general manager for the Blues for the last couple years. I believe, is he related to Doug Armstrong, their GM? I'm not totally sure on that. But anyway, he was working for the Blues last season. Apparently, they really liked him. The Coyotes, of course, bring him in as their GM. We'll see how things go for them. But I mean, the Coyotes are not exactly making great news right now, because it seems like they are not paying a lot of their bills, which is a thing we have heard about with the Coyotes time and time again of late, that they are just they're just in financial trouble as always. We'll see if I can pull up. Why can't I find the quote here? The Arizona Coyotes. Including one of them was the big one was, I believe, they owe money to the operators of the Gila River Arena. Let's see, which is a big one. I mean, there's the whole Here we go. Here it is. This is from Katie Strang of The Athletic. More concerning financial news for the Coyotes. Team still has an outstanding balance that is yet to be paid with ASM Global, which operates and manages Gila River Arena. Balance for 2019-20 season due on June 30th has yet to be paid. Coyotes' lease agreement is with ASM, not the city of Glendale, though city has been informed by representative that they're currently working to settle those accounts. And then later it came out that they had also missed a payment for one of their for someone on their team, for a management person, I believe, or was it a player or a management? Bergen Coyotes, I believe. Let me double check here. It was Tyler Steenbergen, I believe, had missed a $4,500 check. Had not been sent to him, I believe, is that if I've got that correctly. Let's I can't seem to find it on here. But either way, it's not good. Either way, it's not looking good for the Coyotes. They seem to be running low on money right now, and oof. I mean, what else is new though? At the same time, like the Coyotes just seem to those poor guys, like they never can just figure their shit out. Unfortunately, no matter who's the owner, and they've had a lot of them over the last few years. No matter how decent the product on the ice is, and it was good this year. It was pretty good this year. They made the playoffs. They just can't. No matter how gorgeous those Kachina jerseys are. They can't seem to figure out how to keep their team operating smoothly. They every year it's bumps. It's just one bump and one bump after another, and it's just a roller coaster. And at what point do you pull the plug? Like, I mean, they've really hung on with this team for a long time, and it just feels like they're never gonna find that stability again. Like they're never gonna find that stability in Arizona. I just wonder at what point. What point do you say, okay, it's time to pack this in? This hasn't worked. It's time to pack it in and move them to and send the Coyotes either to Houston or Quebec City. Like, is it like I feel like it's coming soon? Like it does feel. I feel like we're getting closer and closer to the point where the Coyotes might just end up. They might just end up pulling the plug on Arizona entirely. I mean, I think I'm going to go see a game. Like, I'm already, like, seriously looking at the idea of, like, well, when COVID, clears up a little bit and it's safe to start traveling again, I might end up going to see a game in Arizona just because, hey, if they leave, I want to say I've been to that rink before they move somewhere else. So that's the kind of stuff that I'm just, that I've been thinking about. I don't know where the NHL's at right now, especially because, they've got 30 other teams to deal with right now as well that are all, experiencing varying levels of less than ideal finances right now because of everything that's happened. But, the Coyotes, it just feels like there was the John Chayka stuff earlier that we've talked about. There's this, and then there's this, and then, you go back in the whole history books of the Coyotes of it's just one massive problem after another, and it just feels like we're getting closer and closer to that time where they're going to pull the plug. I hope they find a way to figure it out, because I kind of like the Coyotes as a like Arizona slash, like, Phoenix, Glendale as a market, NHL market. I like them. I've softened on them a little bit, so I'd rather than they not move. I'd rather they find success where they are. But I don't know. It's looking more and more like the best thing for them is to maybe find a new home. But hopefully they find a way to figure things out. I do want to see this. I want to see the league with 32 stable, healthy teams. Is that too much to ask for the NHL? I hope not. We might not see hockey again for a while. Gary Bettman talked about earlier today how it's looking more and more likely like we're going to get a January 1st start for the league, or at least like an early January start for the season with like phases in terms of in terms of fans and the actual arenas. Like the belief is it's like, I think something they talked about on Hockey Night in Canada tonight was it was like in 3 phases where it's going to be like they're going to start the season with no fans, the 82 game regular season with no fans. They're going to then a second phase where they let in some fans, and then the third is we're closer to like capacity based on however things are going with COVID at that point, which is, I'm glad to see they're taking this as seriously as they possibly can and not just being like, all right, we're going to start letting in people right away, because that's a terrible way to handle this. And it looks like they're taking it very seriously. It obviously is going to affect teams in a couple cases, but hockey coming back early January, it would be a sight to behold, and everyone will be happy to have it back again when that does, have all 30 teams back and healthy. But before we can get there, we've still got a few more months of things to do, and free agency and a draft coming up, and there's a lot more. There's still some more hockey content before we head on our fall summer vacation for hockey, for the NHL, and see where things go for the Canucks, for the league. And we've got a Stanley Cup to hand out in the next couple weeks. And with that, I think we're going to call this an episode. Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed the show, make sure to check out my Patreon at patreon.com/LachInTheCrease. For $3 a month, you get bonus episodes of the CreaseCast, as well as early access to articles I write for LachInTheCrease.com, and a few other stuff coming up as well. Again, especially because, hey, we got the new camera now. There's going to be more stuff to do there. And of course, if you're not watching this right now, you can on the CreaseCast YouTube channel. Link in the description below. Make sure to hit subscribe, tap the bell icon to get notified whenever a new episode comes out. And of course, subscribe on your local podcast platforms, be it and leave a review on Apple Podcasts if you can. And yeah, thank you so much for listening. This has been the CreaseCast. I've been Lach in the Crease. Hope you're enjoying our return to autumn. Hopefully, you're staying social. You keep social distancing. Keep washing your hands regularly. Shopping at local and eating at local restaurants and stores. Especially for that local pumpkin spice latte, because hey, it is that season now. I was thinking about that the other day, that I'm just like, I could really I don't even like pumpkin spice lattes, but man, have I been like, with everything going on, I could really go for a PSL right now. And I might go get one tomorrow morning after this episode drops. Thank you for listening. And I will see you on Tuesday/Wednesday, I believe. Yeah, that's Wednesday new episode after this. All right. Thank you and good night.